Hey everybody! In this video I'm going to demonstrate watercoloring your self-portrait. At this point you should have your self-portrait drawn with pencil and then outlined with Sharpie marker. I'm using thick and thin Sharpies, thick Sharpies for the things in the front and then thin Sharpies for things in the background. Don't forget to do your big erase as well. Before you watch this video, I recommend watching the watercolor techniques video. It talks about different watercolor techniques and skin tones to practice before you start this. It looks something like this, so if you didn't watch that yet, please go back and watch that first. So we want our self-portraits to look as realistic as possible, and hopefully you're able to draw your self-portrait on a thicker piece of paper. Watercolor does work best on thicker paper so that it doesn't rip the thin paper. So if you drew it on a thin piece of paper, the choice is yours. You can try watercolor painting and see what happens, or you can use a different material in your art kit. I do recommend trying to use realistic colors and maybe mixing if you can, but if you can, give watercolor a try. I think you'll enjoy it. Just be careful with the light paper. Or redraw your self-portrait again on thicker paper. So anyways, I'll stop blabbling on. I'm going to show you some techniques on this one. This is one that has been started to be painted. I recommend having your paints, your paintbrushes, Mama, Papa, your paper towel, your water cup, and your paint set, the Fab 4 for painting. I did demonstrate using the wet on wet technique for your skin. So I'm using the Mama for my big areas, and I want to wet the area first. You want to work in small sections at a time because the water will dry. So I'm shooting for that really light yellow, not the emoji yellow, a really pale one. And then depending on your skin tone, if you do the peachy color, add a little bit of red, or the tan, add a little bit of brown. I've started the peachy technique on this, so I'm going to stick with that. Adding a little bit of dry brush red in there. Not leaving those streaks, but of course blending them with just some water. And you can see that's a little too much red I have in there, so I'm really going to try and lighten that up. And I can carry this over to my nose because my nose is skin color, and I am going to need to blot some of that with the paper towel. There we go. That easily takes some of that intense red color out of my self-portrait pretty easily. So the skin tone is going to take you a while. So just take your time. Good things take time. If you need to paint and then come back to it later, that's totally fine. Some of the other techniques, so wet on wet I would recommend for your skin tone. You can also use the wet on wet for the background. So I used red on one side, so I wet the paper first and wet my color. The background would be a nice area to do some blending, so maybe I take some orange and I blend some orange in on that wet paper. Okay, whenever you feel like you're too close to something, you can always switch to your baby brush. So I don't want to get this red in my hair. Also, water will lighten your color, and it will help to blend or mix your colors too. So I can use some water to pull that down as well. For my hair, I used wet on wet for the yellow, because blondes, we say we have yellow hair, but I tried to keep it a little bit light. And then I actually let that dry, and I used dry brush on top. So remember, dry brush, I use some brown. I take my paper towel and I dab all the water out of it, so I just have a very small amount of paint and my brush is dry, and I can almost draw in those highlights of other colors in my hair. like that. Just make sure the background is dry behind it. As you can see here, my yellow is still wet, and I'm actually going to blend in some of that because my hair has some dark areas where it's not so bright. That maybe a light brown would be a good idea to put in there. Anyway, so I can keep working on that. Also, dry brush is a good spot for your eyes and your eyebrows. Your eyebrows usually match the color of your hair. Dry brush is good for these small spaces because it has the least amount of water on your brush, so that your color is less likely to bleed and spread into other areas of your paper. It also makes sense, so my forehead's dry here, so it makes sense to leave this, make sure this area here is dry before I watercolor here so that the two wet colors don't run into each other. So working in different spots of your face throughout gives the watercolors a chance to dry. And I should also switch to my baby brush, definitely for my eyes. So it looks like I'm mixing a blue and a green, dabbing with that paper towel there to get most of the color off. So dry brush is really nice because you don't have to worry about the mess. And again, it's almost like you're coloring with a colored pencil or a marker, but you can still get those nice mixtures of color. Okay, technically the space in between my glasses and my eyes would also be skin color. Dry brush would be a good spot, or even just wet on dry for your lips. And if you want really dark red lips, use less water. If you want to lighten it up, put a little bit of water on top and spread that out. And I can even move this color down here a little bit. I'm using the real tiny tip of my baby brush to get in those little spaces. Don't forget to make your neck and your ears skin color as well. Those are two common things people often miss. Maybe I'm going to use this red to make my earrings. Another good spot for dry brush. So, I hope you have fun painting. Take your time. Okay, work in different areas around your paper. Take your time with your skin color. Don't forget to dab with your paper towel if you got a color that's a little too intense. Okay, take your time. Watercolor's fun. But it's definitely one of the more harder painting techniques, so don't be too hard on yourself, okay? I can't wait to see your self-portraits. Don't forget to upload a picture of your finished work when you're complete. If you have any questions, let me know if I can help.